In this video, I'm going to show you the 4-step process that you're going to use to sign your next 10 high-ticket B2B clients using cold email outreach. Now, in this video, I'm only going to show you the high-level overview of each of those steps. So if you want to learn the nitty-gritty and the technical details of each step, make sure to check out the link in the description. It's going to be the first link, and you're going to click on that to enroll in the free course that has over 6 hours of exclusive cold email content. It's going to show you everything that you need to learn in order to make this work for your B2B company. Before you take a look at any of those steps of the cold email process and consider implementing it into your business, you need to make sure that you have these 4 prerequisites to make sure that this is even worth it for you to implement. Number 1 is product market fit. Product market fit is basically checking, do people actually want what you're selling? If nobody wants it, nobody's going to buy it, and you're going to have a very hard time making any sales or any money using cold email outreach. Number 2 is a landing page with social proof, right? A landing page is basically a conversion mechanism that turns someone who knows about your service and wants to learn more into a booked sales call. And that's something that you need to have. And a very crucial part of that is social proof. More on that later. The third prerequisite that you have to have is a clear ICP, an ideal client profile that speaks to you and that you're able to cater your offering to. And the last part of these prerequisites is a sales process, and a sales process that converts an interested response into a booked call and furthermore into closed revenue for your business. If you don't have a sales process, it's going to be a huge uphill battle for you to make any money with cold email outreach. Now that you understand what your business needs in order for cold email outreach or any marketing channel for that matter to work for your business, let's get into the basics of cold email outreach. And one very important thing that you need to understand about cold outreach systems is that they work like a linked chain. So the system is only as strong as its weakest link, right? Like with a lot of things, every factor of the campaign needs to be optimized for it to bring new revenue consistently and for you to be able to depend on it as a sustainable acquisition source for your B2B company. If even one of those elements are lacking, the whole system is not going to work. So you need to make sure that you can clearly identify each one of those parts and be able to track the metrics and the right metrics for you to be able to improve it over time and actually have some sort of system and some sort of sustainable process of growing this acquisition channel. So now that you understand that all of these parts need to be working together for the system to bring sustainable growth for your business, let's go through the 4 parts so that you understand and can identify them and build them out within your company. Number 1 is email infrastructure. Email infrastructure is basically how you're able to send thousands of emails every day without going into the spam folder and being able to do so without having to manually click on these buttons and basically have a streamlined tech stack there. Number 2 are lead lists. So who are you going to contact, right? If you're sending thousands of emails a day, you need to be sending them to relevant people, which is a huge thing, and we'll kind of go more in depth there. Number 3 are the email scripts. You're sending a lot of emails to a lot of people, so you need to have a compelling message to tell them and convince them to get into your sales pipeline and get them onto a call and furthermore. Number 4 is by far the most overlooked part of the cold email process, which is lead management. And I'll explain why later. This is basically turning a positive response into a booked call and then furthermore down your sales pipeline. So these are the 4 parts, and it's very important that you understand each part because you can't fix something that you don't know is broken. So if you can see and identify one of these that are broken right now in your cold email system, you can go ahead and fix it. But if you can't identify it, then there's no way of you doing that. So let's move into each further breakdown of each part. So number 1 is email infrastructure. So the volume of your email campaigns should never be your limiting factor, right? So what we do for clients is we set up 100 email accounts, and that allows us at full volume to send around 2,500 emails per day with 95 to 100% deliverability, right? So we're safely sending 2,500 emails every single day. Now, that doesn't mean that we're forced to send 2,500 emails a day, but it's much better to have the volume and not have to use it than want to use the volume and not be able to use it, right? Because you don't have enough volume. So what we do is we have a 2-week warm-up period where we send emails, no cold emails, just warm up emails, as the name can indicate. And then after that, we start sending cold emails within a 2-week scale-up period. So from that 2-week scale-up period, we have 5 emails per day per account starting out, and then we go all the way up until 25 emails per day per account, which totals 2,500 emails per day, right? And so basically, it takes 1 month before full volume is possible. And one way that you can kind of see the structure, just so you can identify it and kind of visualize it, is we buy secondary domains, right? And these secondary domains all forward to your primary domain. So if for example, you type in theadvertising.com, you would go into the primary domain, which is advertising.com. And off of each secondary domain is built off so these email accounts, right? And there's 2 email accounts per each domain, sorry. And that's how it works. So you buy 50 domains, 100 email accounts. That allows you to send 2,500 emails per day total. Our technology stack to accomplish this is very simple, right? So we have tested almost every major email service provider, sequencer, and basically each piece of this tech stack. And this is what we're using right now. We've been using this for the past few months, and it's never failed us really. So the email sequencer is Email Bison, right? So this is an email sequencer that basically has a dedicated server for each instance. So every client gets their dedicated server, which is great because with other alternatives, you use the dedicated server or you don't have a dedicated server, and that basically limits your deliverability. And with Email Bison, you have no limits. So you have great deliverability and you have no issues. And it's a great piece of software that we base a lot of our operations off of. Then for the domains, where we get them is from Porkbun, right? So this allows us to integrate and basically create email accounts really quickly off of those domains. Speaking of email accounts, we use Google Workspace US-based enterprise level accounts that we get from a reseller. So I'll link the reseller that we use currently. It's called Cheap Inboxes. And that is the reseller that we use for the Google Workspace accounts that we build off of the domains that we get from Porkbun. Now, for inbox placement testing, we use EmailGuard, which is basically the truest way of knowing the real deliverability of your accounts. And obviously, it's important to know your deliverability because if it's bad, then you can adjust and kind of see where you're going wrong. If you don't do inbox placement tests, then you don't know if you're doing something wrong, right? So you want to be always tracking the right metrics, and inbox placement testing is going to do exactly that, right? And it's worth mentioning that just because this is our setup right now, it doesn't mean that this will be our setup in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, because the space is always changing, right? And it's always adapting, and there's always new updates from Google, from Microsoft, from Zoho, from all these big companies, and there's always a new piece of software. So if you're watching this and you're maybe a year ago, I'm recording this, it may be different, right? So you always have to be on top of the game, and that's why we are always testing new services. Next is the lead lists. So lead lists is a huge part of launching a cold email campaign, simply because if you don't target the wrong people, nothing is going to work. Not even the best copywriting, not the best lead management, not the best infrastructure, nothing is going to work. So you need to be able to find and source the correct final decision maker for your type of offer. And to kind of simplify it into 2 different options that you have, number 1 includes using external data, where you leverage industry-specific directories and databases to find high relevance leads, right? So for example, if you're targeting e-commerce brands, you would use store leads or brand nav. If you want to target software companies or agencies, you would use G2. If you want to target early stage startups, you would use Product Hunt, and so on, right? So that's taking external data, and then you would take that into step 2, which is input the domains from external data into Apollo.io, which is one of the biggest B2B data sources where you can find contact information of these decision makers, and use filters to build an even more targeted list based off of that external data. Then from there, you take that query into step 3, which is exporting and verifying. So you can use a third-party exporter, which I'll link in the description below, and that'll export it into a CSV file where you can later SMTP verify those emails to make sure that they're valid, right? I'll also link that software that we use. It's called Million Verifier. We've been using it for over 2 years at this point, and it's never failed us. And it's very important that you don't skip out on this part, because if you're going to send to invalid emails or old emails, you're going to hurt the deliverability of your domains, right? So that's that. Now, the second option is skipping the external data part, right? And going directly into the Apollo search query and building your targeted lead list based off of keywords, industries, job titles, and other specific filters, such as location and company size and stuff like that. Once you do that, which you can find pretty good lists for specific industries there, you're going to go and export and verify using a third-party Apollo exporter, basically the same step as this one, right, as step 3, and you're going to SMTP verify and do all that, right? So basically the difference is whether you're using external data or not, right? And then once you have that lead list, you can basically send emails to it, but if you want to go a step further and really make your campaigns personalized and talk to leads on an individual level, you can go ahead and once the lead list is verified, you can build and leverage clay.com workflows, which clay.com is basically a glorified Google Sheet is what I like to call it, to make the emails more relevant and personalized to the prospect. And like I said, talk to them on an individual level and make it seem as if you spent 5-10 minutes researching each lead before reaching out to them. So there are tons of workflows that you can use that are already built out within Clay and on social media, but we stick to the ones that aren't just like nice to look at and kind of seem nice. We stick to the ones that actually push the needle within the cold email campaigns and shy away from the ones that are just like filler personalization, where it's like mentioning, the college that they went to or their hometown or something like that. We like to focus more on industry specific stuff to actually make it more personalized. Now, here's a brief overview of a majority. I would say this includes like 90% of the technology that we use for lead list building. So the external databases, depending on the industry, these are the most common ones. So Store Leads is for e-commerce, G2, Crunchbase, Clutch are more agency related or software related. Built With is a great software where you're able to see what type of technology companies are using. Google My Business, Yellow Pages are great for local businesses. Agency Vista is for agencies, and so is Good Firms. A lot of other different data sources that you can use depending on what industry you're in. Decision Maker contact information. So once you kind of have that second part ready to go, you would use Apollo. This is the main one, but you can also run a waterfall enrichment process, which I'll explain in a different video through Find Email, Datagma, Prospeo, Drop Contact, and a few others. And just to kind of simplify, just so you kind of know what waterfall enrichment is, it's basically if you can't find the email address of someone that you got from Crunchbase on Apollo, you can find it on Find Email or on Datagma, on all the other data sources, basically. So you can basically get more out of your total addressable market and find more people to contact. So that's the second part. And then any additional tools such as the third-party exporter of Apollo, Million Verifier to verify the emails, and Clay are some additional tools that we use. Right, so that's the lead list section of everything. Next are the email scripts. Now there's a lot of stuff online about email scripts and everyone has their own opinion. So let me tell you mine. Based on the information and angles that you use to build out your lead lists, you now have to generate that email script. Now, after crafting hundreds and probably close to thousands of campaigns at this point, and seeing what works and also more importantly, what doesn't work, we've created the thesis of 3. This is our script writing thesis for a cold email to be predictably well written and effective, and it needs to contain just 3 very simple things. Now, if you follow these 3 things, in theory, everything should be good, right? And if you have those prerequisites I was talking about earlier in the video, you should have a winning script. Now, the 3 things are, number 1, direct. So all of our cold email scripts are under 75 words, and there are barely any filler words, right? We get straight to the point. Number 2 is relevant. So if you try to sell to everyone, you end up selling to no one. So you have to talk to leads on an individual level for this to work. And then number 3 is value-based. So you need to be solving some sort of specific problem for your leads for them to have any interest whatsoever in your email and for it to stand out within their inbox, right? So the goal of a cold email is very simple, right? It just convey what your company or your campaign level offer is to the lead, invoke some sort of interest, and get attention from them, right? That's all it is. So some common mistakes that you might be doing right now, over 75 words, right? Include a lot of fluff words, include spam triggering words, not getting to the point, beating around the bush and all that, talking too much about yourself and your company and your experience and how good you are. You don't want to do that, right? You want to talk about what the benefit is for these people that you're reaching out to. And then lastly is not split testing angles and different campaign level offers, right? So don't overcomplicate your scripts. Our best performing script, which I'll link like right now somewhere like in the top right, is literally one sentence. Literally one sentence that's it. And that was our best performing script that generated a majority of the results for our agency. So don't overcomplicate it. That's the cold email scripts. Next is lead management, and I'll explain why this is the most overlooked part. And it's very simple. A lot of people focus, and even if you look on YouTube, all the cold email resources you'll find are on, setting up infrastructure, getting good deliverability, crafting the perfect lead list, writing the perfect cold email script. But nobody mentions lead management. And lead management is is where all the money is made, right? Because the goal of lead management is to turn a positive response into a booked sales call, right? If you can't do that, if that's the bottleneck in your system, you're not going to get any sales calls and you're not going to get any sales. So you need to take this very seriously and convert as many hot leads that you have within your pipeline into a booked sales call as quick as possible. So let me run you through kind of how we go about this. When you're running cold email, you have 2 points of contact with the prospect, or at least you should. And having 2 points is already one more than what usually people have. Right now, if you're running a basic cold email system, you probably only have their email, right? Their email conversation thread. They said, yeah, I'm interested. Send me some more information. But what's going to level up your inbox management game is getting their mobile phone number, right? And there's a lot of different data sources they can use for this. What we recommend is Better Contact, where it also uses a waterfall enrichment process to get the mobile phone number of the lead, right? And basically how that works is you get a positive response from this person via email, and within 5 minutes, they get a phone call back from us. So they respond, then 5 minutes later, they get a phone call, right? If they don't pick up the first time, they get a double dial, right? So we call them again. Then if they don't respond to both of the phone calls, we respond to their email with a very simple direct response and basically pushing to get onto a sales call. And then if they don't respond to the email or call back within that time, then we send them a text, right? And then we do that every 2 days until they either pick up, say yes, say no, or a month hits and we stop the follow-up process, right? So it's really the whole goal of this is to turn the hot lead into a booked sales call as quickly as possible, because it's much easier to turn a hot lead into a booked sales call than a cold lead. So why is lead response time so important? So one thing that a lot of people are questioning us about is, why do we stress so much about getting back to these people within 5 minutes? And it's very important because there was a study done by Dr. James Oldroyd, who was a very big lead gen guy. And it was in collaboration with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And really what it came down to is responding within 5 minutes, the leads are 100 times more likely to convert into a sales call rather than if you call them 30 minutes later, right? So that 25-minute window it makes the world of a difference. And a lot of people leave a ton of money on the table by responding 30 minutes later, an hour later, the next day, the next week. I've even heard people respond. So make sure that you respond to people as quickly as possible, because if you're not, every second that you don't respond, they're getting colder and colder and colder. And the chance of you getting them onto a sales call and closing them becomes lower and lower and lower, right? So that's the 4-step process. That's lead management, one of the most overlooked parts in my opinion. Hopefully this video helped you out. Now, like I said, if you are looking to learn more about cold email, more than this high-level overview, check out the link in the description to get the free 6-hour course that goes in depth on all of the technologies, shows real life examples of email conversations that we've had, of the lead list building, of live script writing, and all that. Make sure to join and check it out. And with that being said, if you did like this video, please comment, subscribe, and share with someone who might find this valuable. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.